Once upon a time there was a young boy named Jack who lived with his family in a small house near the woods. One sunny afternoon, Jack decided to explore the woods behind his house. He followed a little trail that led deeper and deeper into the trees. After walking for what felt like hours, Jack came upon a huge, ancient-looking oak tree. Its trunk was so wide he couldn't wrap his arms all the way around it. Squirrels chattered as they leapt from branch to branch high above. Jack craned his neck trying to see the top of the gigantic tree, but its upper branches disappeared into the sky. As Jack walked around the colossal oak, he noticed something strange. On the other side of the trunk was a very small door, only about 2 feet high. Jack tried the ornate brass handle, and to his surprise, the little door creaked open. Inside was a dark tunnel that seemed to lead straight down into the earth below the tree's roots. Jack felt a tingle of excitement. Where could this secret passage go? He ducked low and climbed through the tiny door into the mysterious darkness. Jack could not see a thing once he entered the tunnel. He kept one hand on the dirt wall beside him as he slowly crept forward. Just as he started wondering if he had made a mistake, Jack saw a faint light ahead. The tunnel was leading somewhere after all. A few more steps and Jack emerged into a sunlit meadow full of the most incredible flowers he had ever seen. There were crimson roses as big as beach balls, sunflowers towering over Jack's head, and gently swaying lavender blossoms that filled the air with sweet fragrance. "This can't be real," Jack said aloud in wonder. As he walked among the meadow's botanical marvels, he then noticed flickering lights up ahead. They almost seemed to be fairies. Jack rubbed his eyes in disbelief. There were indeed dozens of tiny fairies flitting about from flower to flower. Their gossamer wings shimmered in the sunlight. Jack even thought he could faintly hear their high little voices tinkling like bells. "I must be dreaming," Jack muttered. Could he have possibly discovered a doorway from the woods near his home to Fairyland? Just then, Jack heard a booming voice say, "Who dares enter the meadows of Daisymore?" Jack jumped and turned to see an 8-foot-tall gnome with a long white beard and large pointed red hat scowling down at him. "I asked who you are, boy," the gnome bellowed. Jack stammered, I'm Jack, sir. I found a door in a tree that led me here." The gnome's harsh expression softened slightly. A door you say? Well, Jack, I am Reginald, guardian of Daisymore. We don't take kindly to trespassers here." Jack shook with fear, certain he was done for. How would he ever find his way home now? But to Jack's surprise, Reginald chuckled. "Lucky for you, we haven't had a visitor from the human world in many a year. Perhaps you were meant to find our realm." The gnome whistled, and 24 fairies descended in a swirl of sparkles to surround Jack. Their high voices chimed excitedly. "Let's show the lad around," trilled a purple-haired fairy. "Yes, yes, the grand tour," added a mustachioed fairy wearing a top hat woven from blades of grass. Despite his disbelief at everything happening, Jack couldn't help laughing at their enthusiasm. "All right, little ones, lead the way." And so the fairies treated Jack to sights like he had never imagined. They introduced him to the Queen of the Fairies, who had gossamer butterfly wings and a gown made of rose petals. They showed him the pixie village, with its toadstool houses and glowing mushroom lamps. They let him taste honeydew nectar and frosted clover cakes. Jack rode on the back of a dragonfly over the forest of singing trees, whose leaves provided the melody. Everywhere he went, Jack made new fairy friends. Being his size made it easier to interact with them than most humans. Jack wondered if he was the first child to ever play with fairies. At last it was time for Jack to return home for supper. The fairies were sad to see their new friend go. "You must come back soon," said Daisy the fairy. "Any time you wish to return, just open the door in the oak's trunk," Reginald told Jack with a wink. Then the gnomes and fairies gathered to wave goodbye as Jack walked down the tunnel back to the woods near his home. He simply couldn't wait to tell his family about his unbelievable adventure in Fairyland. But would they even believe him? Jack smiled as he pictured his little sister's face when he described the dainty fairies and their whimsical realm nested snugly under the roots of the ancient oak's trunk. This was a day he would never forget.